Good morning. Here are headlines today. And campaigners accuse the government of betrayal over the decision not to compensate women affected by the increase in the state pension age.
Later this morning, we'll find out how quickly prices are rising for the things we spend our money on as the latest inflation figures are revealed.
The Arctic town known as the polar bear capital of the world is seeing declining numbers because of the impact of climate change.
As more children take an interest in skincare, experts are warning that using products made for adults could cause irreversible damage to young skin.
In sports, we reflect on a special night as Olympic champion Keely Hodgkinson is crowned BBC Sports Personality of the Year to round off a memorable 2024.
Campaigners have reacted with fury to the government's decision not to pay compensation to women who have been affected by rises in the state pension age. They believe more than 3 million women born in the 1950s, known as WASPy women, weren't given sufficient notice of the change. The government said the £10.5 billion bill represented poor value for the taxpayer. Sir Keir Starmer's former Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, is expected to become a baroness when the government announces a number of new Labour peers on Thursday. Former senior civil servant is best known for investigating lockdown parties during Boris Johnson's premiership. A number of Conservatives will also be appointed to the House of Lords. The former Archbishop of Canterbury, George Carey, has quit as a priest after a BBC News investigation which found that he'd allowed a priest to return to ministry despite being banned over sexual abuse allegations. Justin Welby, the most recent Archbishop of Canterbury, resigned for similar reasons. The Archbishop of York, who's due to take his place, is resisting calls to resign.
News this morning because the latest UK inflation figures, which show how fast prices are rising, just been announced by the Office for National Statistics, and Ben can tell us the details. Ben, what do they say?
Yes, good morning. Really important that affects people all around the UK, this. It is not the Christmas gift that many households will have been hoping for. Prices rising more sharply as we approach an already expensive time of year. Official figures show that prices for the goods and services we typically spend our money on went up by an average of 2.6% in November compared with a year earlier. A lot of that was driven by a rise in the cost of cigarettes and other tobacco after the government increased the tax on that in the budget. Rising petrol costs also contributed to pushing the average inflation rate higher. Remember, it is an average, so some things will have risen in price more steeply than that. It is way below the peak of about 11% that we saw at the height of the cost of living crisis a couple of years ago. But it reveals a definite trend of price rises speeding up in recent months. It's higher than both September and October, and that will put pressure on household budgets as well as businesses. Why does it matter? Well, the November figure is now even further above the Bank of England's target for inflation. Remember, it aims to get it to 2%, and it will consider this latest data when it sets the cost of borrowing through interest rates. Those affect the cost of loans and mortgages. It has begun cutting the interest rate this year, slowly, but this rise in inflation, together with wages rising more quickly in recent months, means a further cut in the cost of borrowing this year is by no means certain. We'll get that decision from the Bank of England on interest rates tomorrow.
Here, police forces were not suitably prepared for the serious violence and disorder that broke out over the summer, according to a police watchdog. You'll remember, of course, the riot that broke out in July in Southport after 3 young girls were fatally stabbed there. And then further disorder was seen across the UK. Well, in a review published today, His Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary says that officers showed immense bravery and sacrifice, but they missed opportunities to prepare for widespread disorder. One of Britain's busiest ferry ports will remain closed for another 4 weeks after it was damaged by Storm Darragh at the start of the month. Holyhead Port on Anglesey was originally due to reopen later this week, but it's now been announced that all ferry services will be suspended until January the 15th at the earliest. Another transport story. Avanti West Coast is warning that strike action will cause significant disruption to rail services after a deal to resolve a dispute was rejected by union members. Train managers will walk out for 22 days between New Year's Eve and the end of next May.
Let's have a look at the front pages of today's papers, shall we? We're starting with the Mirror, and as we have been reporting, many of the papers leading with the government's rejection of payouts for women affected by changes to the state pension age. They are known as the WASPy women. We've been betrayed, is the Mirror's headline there. Liz Kendall, the Work and Pension Secretary, said that claims of up to £10.5 billion would not be a fair or proportionate use of taxpayers' money.
The Times also leading with that story. It says Labour MPs are rebelling over the decision not to pay compensation, with one of them describing it as one of those historic injustices that are a stain on our society.
The Telegraph carries this image of the US billionaire Elon Musk with Reform UK leader Nigel Farage and the party's new treasurer Nick Candy. The paper says Mr Musk has backed Reform and opened discussions about making a major donation to the party.
And the Financial Times this morning leading on the death of a Russian general who's accused of using chemical weapons in Ukraine. It says that a Ukrainian intelligence official has told the paper that Ukraine's security service was responsible for an explosion which killed the high-ranking figure.
And inside the papers today, in the Times today, there's some good news, John. If you like a glass of wine at night, one glass of wine. If you like a glass of wine at night.
When? Yeah.
Yes.
What's the news?
Apparently, it halves the risk of having a heart attack or a stroke. This is some research from the University of Barcelona. They looked at more than 1,000 Spaniards who were having... they were at high risk of heart disease, with an average age of 69, and they were having a glass of wine, red or white, and it gave them a much greater protective effect than previously thought. Saying, the
just one glass?
Just one glass, John.
Can you make yourself immortal and invincible by having maybe...
What, a really big glass?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
it's just one glass. They're saying a bottle over a week. So it's quite...
OK.
Yeah. Your face.
OK.
You're disappointed by that. You look crushed.
Somebody, Sal, is going to be drinking a lot of champagne because we have a lottery winner somewhere in the UK. Somebody won the Euro Millions. They came forward yesterday after the draw on Tuesday, November the 26th. Okay. They've won... I always get the numbers wrong. 177,300,699 £20.
Wow. Why did they wait so long?
I don't know.
They won it in
imagine
November.
Looking for that ticket. But yeah, £177 million. It makes them richer than Dua Lipa and Michael Bublé.
Wow.
In fact, it makes them wealthier than Dua Lipa and Michael Bublé combined. That's got a brag when you walk into the pub, isn't it?
Very lucky. And let me guess, we don't know who they are.
No, they've decided to remain anonymous. Might be slightly obvious under the Christmas tree, don't you think?
£177 million. Someone's going to have a great Christmas.
Somebody's going to have more than a glass of wine, I think. Good luck. Well done to them. You know where we are. 22 minutes past 6.
No.
At 6, the Prime Minister defends his decision not to pay compensation to millions of women affected by changes to the state pension age.
The taxpayer simply can't afford the burden of tens of billions of pounds of compensation. But I do understand the concern.
Also tonight, a 19-year-old who was filmed inhaling laughing gas before crashing his car is jailed after 3 of his friends died. A criminology student is found guilty of murder and attempted murder after he stabbed Amy Gray and her friend Leanne Miles on Bournemouth Beach.
Still to come. They began the year with Oscar wins. They're finishing it with royal honours. Christopher Nolan and Emma Thomas round off a winning year at Buckingham Palace. Plus...
the new judge, he'll replace Greg Wallace on Celebrity Masterchef.